Hey everyone, just wanted to make a quick owner's review of this 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee Summit Reserve. So we just got this, it's been a month, and we'll go over kind of like an owner's review and I guess a little bit of from an engineer's perspective. So this is Summit Reserve white, as you can see, with the black roof. Pretty much the Summit and Summit Reserve is pretty much these wheels and some of the interior bits that are different over the Summit. And then obviously a Reserve is like kind of like fully loaded. So I think what's pretty cool is the size is actually, when I looked it up, it's actually smaller in like where the wheelbase is. So this is obviously based on the new Giorgio underbody, which is kind of the underbody of a Stelvio, and you kind of see it's like very similar in size, but obviously the exterior panels are like much bigger. But the size is very nice, and then yeah, just all the cladding with, you know, paint matched, and you know, the matrix LEDs, and then all the kind of you know, satin finish. It looks really nice. It's a really well put together truck. I guess one thing that, you know, my dad really wanted was the black roofs. So these are pretty rare. I think, you know, from a manufacturing perspective, you know, usually the black roofs, you know, typically the process is you kind of have to pull it off the line and you kind of have to manually spray it with a gun. So obviously that's very expensive for any car company. So it's kind of interesting how they did it. They kind of taped it off here, and you can see the tape marks here. But very good job. The only thing I would say is, you know, we wanted to kind of wrap it, but wrap would never get this kind of look. It would be very orange peely. But obviously one thing that kind of sucks is, you know, when you're washing it and stuff, you'll start to see a little bit of scratches here and there. But other than that, yeah, this is pretty good. I guess one of the things is the powertrain that we got, which we got was the V6. So obviously a lot of people kind of crave over the 4xe. The reason why we got this is obviously we have an iX, and that's like our EV SUV. This is gonna be like a long trip kind of hauler. So on the highway, this actually has better gas mileage and it has a bigger fuel tank. So because of that, it makes it like, you know, such a better like highway cruiser. The 4xe is very heavy, and honestly it kind of runs into the same problem that the Volvo XC90 had, which is pretty much the fact that, you know, so for such a big SUV, a 4-cylinder kind of like, you know, weighs it, you know, makes it very difficult. Honestly, if they had it like where it was like the inline 6 turbo, which I believe is going to be the Hurricane engine with the hybrid, that I would be really interested in. These wheels are actually pretty sick. You know, it's going to be really hard to clean these, but what I did realize is these are actually satin finished. They're not gloss black, so it makes it really nice. The door closing, it kind of has like a unique sound to it. It's kind of G-Wagon-esque, the sound. Feel not so much, but it is pretty cool. The interior, we kind of wanted to get the beige interior, but this is obviously for my mom, and I don't think she's gonna take care of it that much as me and my dad do. But these seats, man, are super nice. The diamond seats. It's got the lumbar support here, as you can see. It's got a bunch of nice controls. I think what I really like about this interior is like all the trim pieces is very well, like everything is soft touch. Even down to here, it's like leather wrapped. You know, all the little like, you know, satin chrome anodized steel kind of look, it does very good. And then obviously one of my favorite parts about this car is the passenger screen, so we'll go over that. But yeah, I guess one of the really cool things that makes this truck kind of unique is my dad has had every single generation of Jeeps. And we were kind of waiting for this, and the two things that my dad were waiting for in order to go back to a Jeep were, one, heads-up display, and second was ambient lighting, which this truck has. So once we got those back in, he was like, hey, let's get a Jeep. It's time to go back. back to the good old days. But yeah, fit and finish, everything. Obviously on the Summit models, Summit and above, you're gonna have air suspension, or actually Overland and above will have air suspension. I'm gonna go back to how I used to do the vehicle reviews before. So obviously for the vehicle generation, this is gonna be the WL platform, as I said, which is on the Giorgio Stellantis, chassis. It's pretty good. Honestly, driving this, it does feel a bit more nimble compared to the older Jeep Grand Cherokees. But the one thing I will say is like it is still very heavy, and then the tires are basically not capable of making these like go really fast around a corner. So I think, with some nice tires, like maybe for the SRT version, hopefully it'll be really nice. In terms of recalls, so obviously for Jeep, Chrysler, Stellantis in general, they have a lot of recalls. I think there's no recalls for this vehicle specifically. Most of the recalls are actually for like the base models, because there's one for the rear coil suspension, the lights, and some other stuff. So obviously, in terms of purchase for Jeep, Chrysler, Stellantis in general, they have a lot of recalls. I think there's no recalls for this vehicle specifically. Most of the recalls are actually for like the base models, because there's one for the rear coil suspension, the lights, and some other stuff. So obviously, in terms of purchasing and like the financing, so one of the reasons why we kind of went with this is so financing, like obviously right now car market is like really bad, and we actually got like a pretty hefty discount, almost double digit in percentages off the car. And we were also able to kind of get 0% financing, which is like really good, especially now when everything is 7%. I guess they're not really selling many of these, but man, these are really nice trucks. In terms of maintenance, so this is just like the V6. It doesn't really have much to maintain. That's also another reason why we wanted this, is because this is pretty much like a Range Rover, but you don't have to put premium octane gas. You just put 87. It's pretty easy to maintain. It's the standard 8-speed air suspension, all the stuff that Jeeps kind of have tried and tested. In terms of features, so obviously for us, what we really wanted was the heads-up display, which would come standard in the Summit Reserve, and then we wanted the passenger display. So obviously you can see from here, I can't really see it when it's on. Here, I'll turn it on. So the driver can't see it, but obviously when you go to the passenger side, you can really see it. So one thing that's cool is you can actually do a lot of stuff with it. So you can control like your audio, your video. You can plug in an HDMI port and test it out. You can do your navigation. So obviously this is only going to be the Jeep navigation, which honestly kind of sucks in my opinion. I'm gonna play around with it a bit more, but you can see the camera, forward, rear facing cameras. It's pretty cool. So I think the biggest benefit is like being able to choose music, and then obviously controlling what you want to play. In the screen, honestly, this UI, it took a very long time to kind of get used to and go through. I really missed like the Uconnect right before this. This is honestly not really lagging that much, but it's just like the layout I honestly don't really like that much. So obviously it has massage seats, it's very luxurious and stuff, but it's just the layout, like this is definitely for someone that's a car guy who wants to like learn and know about all the features. Because if you go to the vehicle settings, for example, there's like 3 different settings. Like this is like a true off-roader. So obviously if you click on this, you can see like all sorts of stuff, right? You can see the pitch and roll, select terrain. You can record your stuff here. So it kind of has like a dash cam type thing. So obviously Stellantis has a partnership with Amazon Alexa, so that's also linked up there. Suspension, it's forward facing camera. You can actually clean the camera, which is pretty cool. Yeah, there's like a ton of options, and honestly configuring it is like very painful, but then honestly like I've kind of made it easy for my parents so that like they have everything in their kind of favorites, which is Alexa or the device manager. And over here, honestly, it's pretty cool. There's like a lot of cool options that you can do. So there's a night vision starting up. Let's see how long it takes. So yeah, it's night vision right there. There's a driver assist, speedometer. So if I go up and down, you can see the different views. So map display, air suspension, and so on. So the heads-up display is honestly good, but it's nothing, I don't know if you guys can see, but it's honestly nothing like, you know, the Germans, right? Like it only has adaptive, you know, cruise control stuff, speed and direction, and like a little bit of navigation. It doesn't have anything like, you know, your tachometer or anything of that sort, which I honestly wish that they could have done. One thing that's really annoying with this car is like the amount of gloss black, like all of this. So obviously it's open now so that I can make sure that my mom doesn't scratch it. But yeah, like it is a lot of gloss black, but it's honestly holding up pretty good in like the first month. We'll have to see how it goes. But the amount of buttons here is honestly overwhelming. I really like how the Wagoneer is. So the Wagoneer is like pretty much here, and then all of this is a screen below, and then they have, you know, a strip of buttons here, which is, I think it's like a good balance. This is like way too many buttons. Like I don't know why they have a button for mute. Like there's literally a button to turn it off. I'd rather have that than mute. Then there's like heated button, cool button, then there's like a random button in between. But then this side doesn't have the random button because obviously the heated steering wheel is here. Then there's a button for the screen off, which I don't know what the difference between this and this is. So I think Jeep can do a little bit better on their UI UX design. And honestly, like over here, like all the diamond stitch leather and everything, it looks really good. So in terms of options to avoid in this truck, I would say probably the option to avoid is like, I would like these Jeeps, like, you know, the purpose of these cars are like, you know, American Range Rovers. I tried to avoid like the regular coil suspension because it'll feel like even more bloated. The air suspension honestly is very relaxed. It makes the drive really nice. And then obviously when it comes down, you know, during the highway or when you're easy entry exit mode. So obviously when it comes down on the highway, you get, you know, better gas mileage, better aerodynamics and stuff. But overall build quality, not too bad. Like, I mean, it's classic Stellantis. Like some of the stuff moves. It's not going to be like a German, but honestly, way better than the good old days. But we'll have to see how it holds up. And obviously here is all Alcantara. It's very nice. Back seats, super nice. You can see the sunscreen kind of sunroof actually goes all the way to the back of the second row, which is super nice to have. The speakers, I don't want to play right now, but honestly they're really good. It has like a really good bass tone to it. I feel like the mid could be slightly better, and like the crispiness of it is not, it's not that crisp sound, but it does pretty good. Adaptive cruise control is honestly one of my favorites. It's really good. It works at like all speeds. You know, whether it's like during the city or highway, it's just like your standard level 2 stuff. Overall competition wise, like the main competitors to these are probably like kind of like the Cadillac SUVs, like the XT5 or XT6. So XT6 is obviously more comparison of a Grand Cherokee L, which honestly is like another competitor to this truck. So we were actually looking at the Grand Cherokee L. The only difference is like obviously the look. The Grand Cherokee L's, I don't know, it looks longer. It, you know, has a 3-row, but honestly the 3-row is not that usable that we really wanted to get it, because obviously when you go to the Summit Reserve models, you get like captain seats in between, right? So if it had a 3rd seat in between there, we would have been a little bit more interested. Just because, you know, we're going to be having like 5 passengers all the time, so we want to make sure that we don't obviously kick the one person out. And then obviously the Grand Cherokee L is, when I drove it, it feels more clumsy, like kind of feels like out of place. So obviously in terms of history, the Grand Cherokee is the one that came out after the Grand Cherokee L. So obviously it had like a lot more refinements, and it has like a lot more of the features that the L, you know, doesn't have. And then I guess another competitor, like, so obviously my dad, like, he's had like an X5 and he says it drives like pretty comparable to it. Obviously the only thing in an X5 is it's way more sportier, way more faster, way more economical, but you know, you are paying that hefty price difference. But all in all, you know, this is basically like what my dad says is like most similar to in terms of driving feel and comfort and all the features is a Velar. So you can see like all the little, like, you know, gloss black trim pieces on the steering wheel, like all the very like fancy stuff. It's like very like Range Rover-esque. The size, driving feel, everything is very similar to kind of like a Velar. Because Velar is like, you know, you got that like raised up seating position, you know, the long hood, you got the black roof. It's honestly very similar, and even price, honestly, the Velar to like a Summit Reserve, you'd pretty much get like a base Velar for the price of you know, like a fully loaded spec of this. And you know, it comes with the, you know, the same type of features, and in the snow I'm sure like both of them would be equally as good. So yeah, let me know if you guys have any questions, and if you got it, you know, if you found any, you know, weird quirks or bugs with the car, or if you know, have any tips or tricks of stuff that I didn't go through in this video, please put that down in the comments below. Thank you guys.